And welcome to another episode of Think Like a Leader, where we explore the mindsets and strategies of some of the top leaders around the globe. I'm your host, Dorian, and today I'm joined by Mr. Vic Martinez. He's a retired Command Sergeant Major with 28 years in the U.S. Army, including combat tours in Iraq. Now, through Elite Life Coaching LLC and Martinez Motivation, he coaches professionals to overcome self-doubt and lead authentically. Vic, welcome to the show, man.
I'm doing great.
I'm glad that you wanted to be on, and I'm excited to dive into your journey and some of the defining moments in your journey, especially someone that's had a military background. You shared with me offline that there was a pivotal moment. There was a loss of 25 men that you had in Iraq, and you defined that as something that shaped your leadership journey. Can you share how that experience reshaped your approach to how you lead teams, and what lessons from it do you still instill in the professionals that you coach today?
Dorian, that is a great question, because the loss of life in combat is definitely a defining moment. Not to mention the fact that I was also wounded within the first 2 weeks of that deployment to Iraq. But it was a 15-month deployment to Iraq with the responsibility of taking a regiment of 5,000 men and women. And unfortunately, the reality was I came back with 25 less men. And those events, that deployment, that last deployment, just made me realize how short life can be, and we just don't know what's ahead. And as leaders, when you talk about instilling in professionals, one of the lessons as leaders, we have a responsibility. And first of all, we have a responsibility to do our very best. It may not be a life or death situation as in combat, but as a leader in business or in a company, you can still impact significantly and have a ripple effect across your organization. So I can't emphasize enough to leaders that we have a responsibility.
I love that. And that's a powerful mindset to have, right? Is the being responsible for the people that you're with, not necessarily saying like, this is my team and I'm the guy. It's more so like, no, this is my responsibility to make sure that, as you said, 5,000 men and women get 5,000 men and women. So I know that was a tough situation. How can a leader apply that lesson, right? The responsibility piece, because some people don't want to take that accountability, right? They're afraid to do it because they don't want to make a mistake, right? That's I seem to be the main theme. How do you help that person apply this lesson, apply the responsibility to their life, to their teams? How do you get that message across in like a coaching session?
Well, you mentioned leaders don't want to make mistakes, but mistakes are part of being a leader. And I don't call them mistakes. I just call them lessons. And what you have to do through that adversity is you have to learn from it. And so I just tell leaders, I just tell people in general, you've got to welcome failure, welcome those lessons, because that's what takes you to the next level. Your success, some of the greatest lessons are going to be learned in adversity. They're going to be learned in the valleys and not necessarily in the peaks. So I recommend and encourage leaders to welcome that, and don't let fear paralyze them. But again, as a leader, we have responsibility, and we can either be a good example or we can be a poor example. And so, anyways, that's kind of what I share with people. Welcome failure, because you're going to learn from it.
Yeah, and that's so true. But I want to be the person that's afraid of it, right? I want to kind of give you this frame of mind of the I I want to make this leap. I want to be a leader, right? And I understand failures are part of it, but I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready. What what are you saying to that person, right? That's seeking you, in that moment. Like, what are you saying to that person?
Well, it's interesting you say that people are not ready, because the motto of that unit that I served with in Iraq, where I had those losses, the motto was always ready. I kind of joked because Um, I didn't plan on going to back to Iraq for a second tour, but when the surge happened, uh, I guess the big army looked at our motto, said "always ready," and said, "Hey, we're sending these guys." So we have got to be ready as a leader. Um, you've got to prepare because you just don't know when you're going to get called or when the opportunity comes. So many times people are getting ready to get ready to get ready to get ready, and they never pull the trigger. And part of that delay or is because they're not prepared or they don't feel they're prepared. So I firmly believe it's so important to be prepared because you don't know what life's gonna throw at you. And in combat, you've got to be prepared for anything to happen outside the wire. So
My dad used to have this saying. He would say, "If you fail to prepare, you're preparing to fail." And that's it kind of rings true in a lot of different things. Specifically leadership too, like you alluded to. It's the preparation, making sure that you have at least the knowledge, some of the skills. You're never going to be 100%, right? But at least you have some sort of backing. When you're going into this thing. You mentioned something, and it was the motto, the always ready. I love that. That might be a new tattoo for me or something like that. But I want to dive into that inner dialogue, right? What is that inner dialogue that does drive you as a leader each day? And yeah, I will start with there because I love that always ready mantra.
well, that's it's a mantra that I think about all the time because we don't know what life is going to throw at us. And many times, like we were talking before, we started, um, we don't know what's going to happen. And so you've got to prepare for the unexpected as best as you can. Obviously, in the military, when we were in combat, you didn't know when you were going to get rocketed or mortared or shot at by snipers. So you had to prepare for all those things as best as you could. And in life and in business, we've got to prepare for those challenges of the economy, of our finances, of our health, of all these different things. And so really thinking how I can get better in every area of my life. And just live your life by your values. If your health is valuable to you, is important to you, you're going to make it a priority to be prepared physically. And if your finances are important, you're going to take time to look at your finances and prepare as far as that goes. So preparation is the key. When preparation and opportunity meets, that's when success happens. And so in the military, again, we train and we train and train as we prepare for combat, not hoping that we're going to go to combat, but potentially that's what's going to happen. So we always got to be thinking ahead. Yeah.
Like, it is the always ready because I remember at my time at VMI, it wasn't necessarily we were training for anything in particular, right? But we were training. So when there was something potentially to happen, or if there is a situation where, some people do need to go off base for whatever reason, they're ready to do so. And I thought that to be so interesting, starting from like making the bed in the morning. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hated rolling my hay. I hate it. Whenever we had to roll our hay and put our racks up, I'm like, this is this is silly. But now I realize like that preparation actually allows me to get into a nice, clean, solid bed when my day is over. Like I don't have to worry about getting into a messy bed. And it's a very simple task, but that preparation allows me to not have to think about it any longer until I get home that day. And that's so cool. How did you develop that inner dialogue? You've been in leadership for, I mean, seemingly over 30 years, right? So how did you develop it? Was it the military that brought that to you? Was it something before the military that you think you've had that mindset, or have you developed it after in your coaching practice? Where did it come
Well,
from?
sometimes you hear the saying, are leaders born or are they made? And leaders are made. Leaders are made. My claim to fame and a lot of my lessons learned is my claim to fame. I always say has been mentorship. I've always had great leaders that have taken me under their wing. Um, And so, yeah, you learn from other people. You learn from other people. That has been absolutely vital for me. You hear saying OPM. You hear that acronym OPM, other people's money. But to me, OPM is other people's mindset, other people's mistakes, other people's mentorship. And if you want to have a fast track to success, learn from other people, find a coach, find a mentor. And so that's just something that I've had over the years, both in the military and after the military. So people that saw potential in me took me under their wing, and so uh, it was very. I was very fortunate to have that experience, and then so that's why becoming an executive coach and being able to share my lessons and impart my insight with people is very, very rewarding. And I just want to continue that because somebody did that for me.
I love. First off, that quote OPM, other people's mind. I've heard OPM as other people's money. Other people's mindset is so real, and I believe in that. It's one of the reasons I started the podcast because I wanted to learn the minds of the people that are doing it instead of just reading a textbook. Which I could do, right? But for me, this is having conversations with people like yourself is my version of skipping the line or adding mentors to my mental just voices essentially. But I want to ask you, I know I have my method of how I'm finding mentors, but like, how did you find your mentors, right? Because you said that, oh, they saw potential in you. Well, what were you doing at that time for someone to say, oh, I see potential in this person. I'm going to invest my time in Vic because I think he's going to be somebody or something that does great things. What behaviors were you showing at that point in your life to have someone say, "Oh, I think I'm going to mentor this guy or mentor this kid"?
Mindset you have to have if you're looking for mentors, you have to be open and you have to be seeking. Um, I the Bible says, and I'm a believer. My faith is very important to me. I'm here by the grace of God, coming back from 2 trips to Iraq and one to Afghanistan, and my faith is very, very important to me. But you have to be open to receive, and the Bible says, "Seek and you shall find." So a lot of people aren't seeking a mentor; they're waiting, or they're trying to figure it on their own. But you have to be active. You have to be intentional about seeking out mentorship. Getting association is so important. So yeah, I talk about the power of association. You are, and you've heard this. You are the sum of the five people you hang out with. You know.
It's it's a difficult thing. So for anyone that's listening, it's not easy. What Vic is saying is finding a mentor, right? But you have to put in the effort to find one, right? Like I know for myself, and I'm sure Vic, you could speak on this as well. When you were looking for your mentor, it was very intentional with the skills that they possessed that you wanted to know. Or and then two, how can you then maybe add value to this person as well? It's not necessarily just a one-way street. Like you saw people that said, hey, I really want to learn about business. I don't know about business, so how can I add value to this person that knows about business so they can teach me about business? Like that. It's very, but like you said, it's intentional action. It's not, I hope someone sees that I'm working really hard and they just take a liking to me, which can happen. But I find that far and few between that actually is the way that a mentor is gained. Um, do you have any other tips for someone that is seeking a mentor, say, that's new, maybe in corporate or they're starting their own business besides just like I said, reaching out? Like, do you have any, strategies behind that? Like finding people that align with what you're doing?
Yes, in order to find like-minded people, look for events. I love to go into events, whether it's business or investment or uh, any kind of conferences where there's like-minded people, and I just begin conversations, and then as you have conversations, you listen to their experiences, and you can actually tell you can tell when somebody's got success and have got experience and insight that you could benefit from. And I love to invite people out to lunch. I mean, this is something that I learned from John Maxwell, great author. Obviously, you know who he is. Thanks for sharing that link, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
but he always talked about a lunch and learn, and take somebody out to lunch or take them out to dinner, buy them dinner, and then learn from them. I just recently did that this past week, and what I thought was going to be an hour lunch was a 2.5 hour lunch. Learning from somebody that I respect and admire, a lot of success under his belt, former NFL football player, and now he's a speaker and author, executive coach as well. So I wanted to learn from him and took him out to lunch, and I had my notes prepared, and it was awesome. And I have access to him. He says, "Hey, I look forward to the next time, and
That's
use
awesome.
me, whatever I can do to help you." So yeah, once you seek somebody out, you find somebody, yeah, take them out to lunch, have a list of questions, and just learn from them.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna ask who it was offline. You ain't got to tell me online, but I'm gonna ask who it was offline because I'm interested to see who it was that you took out to lunch. I I'm learning that that is a fabulous way. I want to get your intake though on when you do take them out to lunch. What's that conversation like? Because I know it's some people may be like, okay, I got this person now. We're going to lunch. How am I even framing the conversation? What am I going into this conversation thinking, asking? Like how do you even have that conversation with a mentor or someone that you want to be your mentor initially, like that first combo?
Well, the first conversation, I mean, obviously I know things about them that like for example, my friend who played in the NFL, he's a pastor, he's a speaker, and so there's a lot of things that I know. And I read his book. So if you have somebody that you're going to sit down with and they have the book, by all means, read the book. And so I read his book, but then I guess when I began the conversation, I said, "Man, phenomenal book. I loved what I read. Your story's awesome." I said, "What else can you share with me? Tell me some other things, some of your journey." And I just listened, and I heard how he began and the journey from where he started to where he's at, to the low points in his life, to the high points in his life. And I just look at him where he's at now, and really it was just so refreshing to hear his journey. And his journey just validated that success is a journey. There is no finish line if you're pursuing excellence, and we have to continue getting better and better and better and preparing for that next level. You know.
Love that. And I find, conversations that I had, like even like with yourself, when I have these conversations, it is that inspiration that you need in a way because you get to see someone's journey and almost put yourself there a little bit and kind of say, damn, like I'm in this position. They were in almost probably 10x worse of position than I am in today. And yet they were still able to make it out on top and be someone that I'm looking up to. So I find any conversation that I have with mentors to be that, like you said, validation point, that inspirational conversation. And that's what are you grabbing anything that's more actionable as well? Like in these conversations, are you asking questions like a specifics of like say they're a speaker, right? And you're trying to grow your speaking career. Are you asking specific questions about, hey, how did you create this back end funnel of the speaking and how do you get your engagements? Like, are you asking specific questions like that typically in these conversations also?
Yes, I've asked some specific questions, and yeah, I wrote down a bunch of stuff, just giving thought of how he started, how he's able to adapt, how he's able to continue to scale and grow his business, his speaking business. I mean, he's spoken for huge companies, Motorola and Chick-fil-A and different companies. He travels all over the country. And so, yeah, I definitely wanted to ask some specific questions on how he began his networking, and it was just a great story. It was a great story. Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about what you do with Elite Life Coaching, the Martinez Motivation. Uh, You focus mainly on building confidence and potential. That's essentially what your backbone is. What's one practical tool or habit that you recommend to leaders who are struggling to move past these setbacks so they can actually lead with that confidence, with that purpose that they're seeking to lead with?
Well, setbacks. I say setbacks are what comebacks are made of, and and we are
Ooh,
gonna always have setbacks. We are always going to face adversity, and again, it goes back to the preparing. I think about this. I heard this a long time ago about a ship's captain who was known for his courage in battle. And when pirates were sighted, he would confidently shout out, "Hey, bring me my red shirt." And then after the battle, the crew would ask why he wore a red shirt. And he told them, "So if I'm wounded, the blood won't show and you won't lose morale." And then one day, the lookout up out on the crow's nest tells him, uh, Captain, not one, but 20 pirate ships, 20 enemy private ships headed our way." And the captain says, calmly, he says, "Quickly bring my brown pants." And you're going to have adversity and you're going to be prepared. You got to be prepared. You got to be prepared. And so, I think if we use setbacks as an opportunity to learn from them, not only will you have the ability to model resilience to your organization, to your soldiers, to your employees, but it also gives you a chance to find out what the root was and learn from that. In the Army, we would do after action reviews, and we'd find out, okay, what happened, what caused that to happen. And so when you model resilience, you recalibrate, find out the root of what happened, and then you just regroup and then move ahead and get momentum from that. So I think the practical tool for people that are struggling from setbacks is to again learn from them, find out what happened, and then move forward. Yeah.
I think that's a huge takeaway that I think I'm going to take away. Um, because I think we do it mentally in our minds at times, right? Where you say, like, randomly you have a conversation and then you leave that conversation, you're like, "Ah, I should have said that." Like, that's technically like a small version of like an after action review, but it's like do it at a larger scale, right? And I love that because I need to do that more. How- Evaluating what I do after my actions versus just doing the action.
Yeah, in the Army, after every training event, um, we are encouraged to, and we're told many times, to conduct an AAR, and that has been instrumental for me, not only in the military but even afterwards. So towards the end of the year, I mean, here we are in the second half of 2025. And in the last month of the year, I do an after action, yearly after action review, and I kind of review my year. Then I look, okay, what happened in 2025? Did I achieve my goals? Did I meet my objectives? And then I learn from that. And then 2026, I have to make adjustments, and make changes so that 2026 is not a repeat of 2025. So AARs are so important after, every significant event or after a certain time period. Yeah, it was just a valuable lesson that I've still continue to do.
I wanted to dive more into that though, because it sounds like you have a system that you've like created that you kind of go through on a year to year basis to kind of keep yourself in order, right? Because I love the after action review, doing it on a yearly basis, kind of figuring out like your goals. And you even mentioned the word objectives. There are people that work and go throughout their entire days and lives that don't necessarily structure themselves in that way. How have you been able to just put that into like almost like a system or formula that you use?
Mm. Well, I say systems. I say that systems is an acronym for save yourself some time, energy, money, and stress. And so if you put in systems in place, it is going to save you time, energy, money, and stress. One system that has been also very important for me is to track. I heard a long time ago that leaders are trackers, and if you track something, you can measure it and you can improve. You can see your progress. And so it's so important. I mean, a lot of people track their finances. People that are in debt and struggling financially, chances are they don't track their finances. Somebody who's out of shape, they probably don't track their weight, they don't track their blood pressure, they don't track their health. So that is one system, but you've got to find systems. I love whiteboards and putting whiteboards up in my home and putting statistics and numbers and data and information that's valuable for me. So you whatever area that you focus on is so important to track. So the lack of systems are going to help you fail. Yeah.
I agree with that. And do you have any? Here's something that I know I struggle with. This is kind of like an off kilter question because the do you have a system for learning? I think there's times in which that we do, and at times I know I struggle with finding that time or the systems or creating a system to where I could learn more,
Yes.
right? And be more knowledgeable. Could you share like one of your systems or systems that you've heard of over your time of being a leader that help with like just learning in general?
Yes. Well, another great question, Dorian. I mean, you talked about finding time or making time. Time is a resources that everybody has. We're all given 24 hours in a day. And when we wake up, I mean, it's a new day, and those 24 hours. I mean, somebody who's wealthy and successful has 24 hours, just like the person who's maybe not as successful or struggling financially. But 24 hours is what we get. And as far as the system for learning, I put on my calendar time. I time block a personal development time. So I dedicate at least 1 hour a day. Sometimes I'll do more, but at least 1 hour a day to learn, to grow, whether it's reading a book, listening to a podcast, a TED talk, something inspirational on YouTube that I can learn from, and not only reading or listening, but also taking notes when you can. Sometimes I'll be driving and I'll just be listening to stuff, but I love to sit down, block off time, give it my undivided attention to continue to grow. Personal development has got to be intentional, and you've got to make time. You're not going to find time. You have to make time. And so we all have these things called smartphones, and on those phones we have calendars. And so block off some time on your calendar, set an alarm, say, hey, it's time for me to grow. And so that's I live by my calendar. So I put everything on there that's important to me, every doctor's appointment, a date night with my wife, personal development time, time to hit the gym. So whatever is important to me goes on my calendar. So that's just another thing that I've learned through the military, that our time is limited. So we've got to maximize it.
Yeah, that's I think that's a huge piece and something that I know I'm definitely working on as well. But organizing the time that you make for yourself, I think that's huge because I know like most people, and like I said, I struggle with a lot of these things that I ask. So I'm not a perfect by any means, but making time for personal development has been something that I've been trying to put myself out there more into. I listen to my podcasts and things like that while I'm, working and doing stuff like that. But sometimes I don't feel like I'm getting everything that you really want to get from that session, quote, the, I guess, personal development time, but time block. Anyone that's listening, use your calendar, lose your calendar here. What does thinking like a leader actually mean to you? What does thinking like a leader mean to you?
Well, thinking like a leader, to me, I mean, another great question. Thinking like a leader is understanding that leadership is influence, and you as a leader are going to impact, influence, and inspire. As a leader, I always say we're here to equip, to empower, and elevate people. And so, thinking like a leader is taking your eyes off of you and putting it on others. One of the things that I mean, you look at military service. It's called military service because we are in the service of other people. And when I was in the military, in my office on my desk, I had a coaster that I would put my cup of coffee on, and on that coaster said, "What have you done for them lately?" And it had a silhouette of a soldier. And so every day I said, what can I do for my soldiers? What can I do for my soldiers? My soldiers, my subordinates weren't there to serve me. I was there to serve them. And so thinking like leader is what can you do for others? In my opinion, is what can you do for others? Yeah.
Love that. I love that. It's something servant leadership is something I've been studying in IO psychology. It's this combination of servant leadership and authoritative. I believe it's authentic leadership. Excuse me. And I find every guest that I speak to speaks on the servant leadership side of it because of how important it is to understand leadership is a service activity. To be a leader, it's a service activity. It is not a uh, a title, so to
Yeah.
speak. It's actually
Not
probably
self-serving. Yeah. It's
yeah.
not self-serving.
It's not self-serving exactly. And I had a guest that I spoke to recently, and he said something. It's like, don't be confused thinking all CEOs are good leaders, and don't be confused thinking like a leader is a CEO because it's not the case always. And I took that to heart because it's leadership is your characteristics. It's who you are almost as a person. From what I've been discovering as the people I talk to, it's less about like what you do and more about who you are in a weird way, because who you are then becomes like your behaviors. Anyway, that's a whole different. I feel like that's a whole different combo, but uh, that's what I've been finding to be very similar for everyone I talk to. It's service. Leadership is service. I think that's so cool. I really do. Um, what
Mhm.
what's one quick tip that you would have for leaders to help build their resilience in tough times when things do get hard, when they are doubting themselves? What would be one tip that you'd give to them in that moment?
Well, one tip as far as to understand to build resilience is to understand that tough times, adversity is temporary. Okay, things will pass. Adversity and challenges and setbacks are all temporary. So you just got to move forward. It if you're going through hell, don't stop. Just keep moving. And so that's one of the things that I would tell leaders. You expect tough times, be ready for tough times. When you encounter them, just keep moving. Don't stop. Continue to move forward.
Of that. That's another good one. That's something I actually learned from military school. Funny enough, they said when you're in hell, don't stop moving. That's kind of what we got during our hell week. That's
Yeah.
if I don't know if you're familiar with VMI. They call us rats. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And when you go through hell week as a rat, that's exactly what Cadre says to you. Like, hey, look, if you're going through hell, don't stop because it's only gonna get worse if you do. So
It is.
um,
Yeah.
God, man, and you know it firsthand, like in real combat. So I can only imagine like your perspective on it. I just went through Hell Week as a student, so I can only imagine actually being out there, you know, with bullets flying by your head, whatever the case may be, bombs on the ground, whatever. Like that's insane, man. Dude, well, Vic, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm super excited about this. My last question, and I want to frame it for the people that are listening to this episode, what have you. Last thing, piece of advice that you give to the leaders out there that are working to become better leaders, to step into their purpose. What's that one piece of advice that you give them today?
Well, again, my claim to fame: find a mentor, find a coach, learn from them, and continue to get better every day. Whether it's through reading, audiobooks, podcasts like yours, TED Talks. But growth is so important. I always say the two things that's going to determine your future are the books you read and who you hang out with. And I would definitely seek out and find a coach and a mentor and spend some time with them. Do everything you can to hang out from them and continue to learn. Yeah.
Love that. Love that. And then Vic's also plugging himself here, right? Because he is definitely looking to be a mentor and a coach to, whoever is seeking it, and I appreciate you, Vic, today for dropping all the game that you've dropped today. Uh, Check out Vic's work at Elite Life Coaching LLC. His website will be in the show notes. Check out Martinez Motivation. That'll also be in the show notes. Uh, Guys, thank you again for joining me for another episode of Think Like a Leader. I really do appreciate every time that you guys tune in. If we gave you something actionable today, do something, right? Because as we say at the end of every pod, great leaders just don't think, they do. All right. So there needs to be action involved at the end of every episode. And of course, I'm going to plug ourselves. Subscribe for more insights. Share this episode with anybody, a fellow leader, anybody that you think will gain some value from this. Connect with us on X. It's Think Like a Leader. There's no I in Think. And then you can find me on LinkedIn by searching Dorian Albritton. Of course, please leave a review wherever that you're listening. Your feedback helps us grow, helps us move forward, helps us produce episodes like the one we have here today. Vic, do you have any final words for our audience today?
Well, again, Dorian, thanks for the opportunity. This was awesome, and I hope that it was valuable for the listeners, and I can share some insight and lessons. And anybody who leaves a review, I would tell you I'm open for the first 5 individuals that give you a review. I welcome to do a coaching call with them. So, and they can reach out to me to schedule that. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. So you heard that first, right? By Vic. He said, for the first 5 people that leave a review or a comment under this episode, he is offering a free coaching call. Okay, so do not let this opportunity pass you by. It is a free coaching call. Vic is not a free person. So for him to do something like this means that he really, really wants to help out the younger community and our community here as well. So if you leave your name and a way to get in touch with you in the comment, only the first 5 people, we will reach out and we'll get you set up with Vic.
Thanks, brother. Yes, I've got a book that will be coming out this year, and I had started writing this. I'll be 60 in October, so my goal was to become an author before I hit 60. So I'm wrapping this up quickly. But the title of the book is "Maneuvering the Minefield from Mediocrity to Mastery." And again, we're not made to be average. God didn't make junk. And I don't want to live an average life. I don't want other people to live an average life. I want people to live their life to the fullest, to the elite levels. So that's a book that's been on my heart, and it will be out this year.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, with the link that Vic provides to me will be in the show notes as well. So if there's a pre-order link or if a link directly to the book, that'll also be in the show notes for you guys to take a look at. And definitely, like I said, reach out. Vic is someone that, I'm glad that I've been able to meet, and he knows what he's doing. He's been helping leaders for over 30 years, guys. So genuinely, come back, reach out to Vic. But until next time, lead with purpose, make an impact, and think like a leader, guys. Have a good one.